climate is a huge issue when we talk about, tribal food sovereignty. Mother Earth she doesn't need us, but we 100% need her. You can't talk about ceremony without talking about the plants. You can't talk about how homes were built without talking about, plants and medicines. And so tribal food sovereignty is connected to the land. That's one relationship that Native people had with the land, was understanding, what she provided. And I think when we think about climate change, without the bees and without, the plants, like, we don't sustain. Our reservation in particular is separated by two rivers, the Green River and the White River, and the salmon, run through, the White River, and our people have fished for as long as we've been there. Our first foods is salmon. And so without these first foods, we lose our identity as the people of, these lands. And that goes for every tribe that depends on the salmon that flow through all of these rivers and these waters. If we don't address climate issues, we actually can't do these practices. And our culture is is defined by these practices of gathering and harvesting foods. The two and two go together hand in hand.
Food brings people together. Not only that, but the food that we use in our traditional practices, our ceremonial practices and things like that, those are, foods that we have been eating for, centuries. If you could imagine a puzzle, food sovereignty being in the middle with our medicines, our traditions, our cultures, our base of, humans in general, and taking that and mixing it all up. That's where we're at. Being able to put those pieces back together, one community at a time, one, organization at a time, and, to be able to just understand what food sovereignty can really do. That's a dream. To really transform things, like, as a people, not just as Indian people, but as a people, and to see the value in that, that's something that I look forward to. That's something that is within our reach. Being from the plains, one of our first staples of food was the buffalo. The way that we would clean the animal ourselves and, use that food from farm to table, and there's so much relationship, there's connection, there's, in our way, we call it medicine. There's so much medicine in that.
Earlier this year, we harvested a buffalo, and we even got to invite some of the schools there. And so, like, a lot of, like, 3rd grade to, like, 6th grade, around that age, they all came in and they got to be a part of it, being able to show them, like, the process of breaking it down and what, like, each part of the buffalo is used for. Like, the bones, you use them for tools, or you could even use them for bone broth. And that's real good for, like, pregnant women, elders, people who are sick. You could make the bone broth and then just put whatever else you want in it for soup, and you could just give the broth itself to them, and that has a lot of nutrients itself in it.
We have a saying in our language and in the people, in our language is mitakuye oyase. And in the language that means mitakuye that means my relatives. Oyasin is like, it encompasses everything. We have songs for the food. We have songs for the water. When we use those first foods, those first medicines, the water, the buffalo and those types of things, that is a part of our original self. If we are separated from the land, if we're separated from the food, we don't know where we come from.
Intentional about serving traditional foods and traditional meals here at the Chief Seattle Club. Over the past 8 years or so, we've actually grown and ramped up our services we provide as far as the kitchen and the meals we provide, whether it's traditional, elk meat, buffalo, or anything, salmon. Eating connects us all. I think every culture around the globe, right? That's one of the cornerstones of the society, is getting together, breaking bread. And when you do that, you're in touch with each other. You come together, and you also come together with your ancestors, and being able to do that, reconnect with our ancestors and with each other, in a proud way and reconnected with our own cultures and our own places, our homelands. It's vital. It's vital in the recovery of the traumas that we've endured. Food is a big part of our ceremonies. Usually close out with that feast. We provide a spirit plate, right? We put that out. That's another big thing, right? We're feeding the ancestors, literally, right? Our memorial walk is actually a ceremony, right? We come together, we cleanse, we pray, sing songs, shed tears with one another, and we march. And we march so that they're not forgotten and that they're remembered. We lose too many people, too many of our brothers and sisters out there in the streets every year. And it's just really memorializing them and a chance for all of us, you know, to say goodbye in a good way, in a healthy way, and send them off on a journey in the right way. We feed everybody that was part of the march and everybody who happens to be in that area who wants a free meal. I grew up in the city. I'm an urban native. Grew up on food stamps. I grew up on processed foods. And no connection, really. I guess, you know, growing up, though, you don't realize how much you miss out, or you don't really know how important and vital that is until you start actually putting that in your body. When I started reconnecting with my spirit, when I got sobered up and cleaned up, and started getting reconnected with my culture, my ceremony, and started taking those things in, both spiritual stuff and actual food, and putting that and giving my body that, I could tell the difference. It processes better, more energy, more sustainable energy, no highs and lows of like crashing and stuff like that. So just the health benefit of eating those traditional foods is phenomenal. But you also, there's a reconnection knowing that your ancestor, knowing that's what you were supposed to eat, and knowing that's what you were biologically designed and made to actually to feed off of.
We're one of the only restaurants that does have not only indigenous foods like from specific to this area, but from other cultures, whether that be salmon, or whether that be bison, you know, whether that be wild rice. You know, we bring those things in dishes that we sell here. We also have the tools, you know, that people would need, like the recipes, or if they want the stories, if they want to know where everything came from, and just helping people get the access to things that they need in order to get back to some of our traditional foods. You can see like the warmth on their face, the smiles in their face, and the joy in their heart. Like, oh my gosh, like I haven't had that in so long, since I was a little kid. Like this just reminds me of home, and the smell just reminds me of home, and the music, the artwork, the environment just reminds me of home. It's not just food that's on the table. Like, you're coming more for an experience. You're coming to be a part of a community. You're coming to engage in a community and have those smells, those tastes, and that energy just envelop you, and just go back to your roots of where it started. Being taken away from that out of my village was difficult. It was difficult for me. It was difficult for me to find the foods that I grew up with. It was difficult for me to find the community that I grew up with. But having this space here for urban natives such as myself, you know, it brings that space together. It brings all those dynamics together. It puts us to the forefront. It puts us out there, puts us in the eye of people walking by, of people who come in here to try something new, to step out of their comfort zone. We are one of the only parts that has an open door to the public, an open door for them to come in and experience us, experience in different food, experience in different environments.
A lot of our traditional foods were high in vitamins and minerals. And so we would be able to make basically a trail mix, or to-go foods. And so we would mix it's called wasna, but it's a mixture of either berries, meat, and fat. And so you have all the things your body needs, the fat, the carbs, and the protein. And so we would take these when we go on hunting parties, and we wouldn't need to stop anywhere, because we would have this nutrient-dense food that we could eat just a handful, and it'd sustain us for the whole day. the government came in and said we're building this hydroelectric dams, and so they're building these to, like, we're going to produce electricity, and so we're going to build this, but they said you could either sign this and get possibly something in return, or you don't sign it and you get nothing. And so there's a picture that you can Google of, I believe his name is George Gillette. At the time, he was our chairman when they were doing the constructions of the Garrison Dam. And so you could see these legislatures signing this document, and he's in the background, and he's crying because he knew what that meant for our people, that once they built this dam, it's going to flood all our homelands and destroy where we would gather certain plants, food, and things like that. And so when they built that, it did destroy a lot of our natural plants along the Missouri River. It flooded them out, and then there's a few plants that you can't even find that were once there because they just got destroyed. A lot of our people have been trying to replenish those food sources, and so they'll get some seeds and they'll plant them here and there, and they'll kind of reintroduce them to the land and things like that. And so we're trying our best to fight the effects of global warming. And I know that within these past few years, it's been really hot back home. And so like even some of our plants that would have a longer window to gather, a lot of them would dry up a lot sooner. So we'd have a shorter window to gather some of our food. I try to teach not only him, but my other kids as well, that mindset of being mindful of other people. Like we'll be at a place and it'll have a lot of choke cherries or things like that, and we'll be like, we're only going to be able to use this much this year, where there's no need to get more unless we're getting it for somebody else, unless we're going to gift it to somebody or do things like that. And so my son is always down to go with me wherever I go. Like the night before, he'd be like, I think I'm going to stay. And then the morning of, he'd be like, actually, I want to go with you. And he'll jump up, get ready. But he's always been right beside me when doing these things. We may come from different tribes, different areas, but we're all Indigenous people. And we have to work together as one to be able to uplift each other.
I ended up working for my culture department for my tribe, and started working with other organizations to get like folks like out on hikes and moving and everything. And I got the opportunity to start taking our youth who work in the forest, making it relatable to what they're doing. Like, you know, Salal is about endurance, and hawthorn is heart medicine. Nettles are, you know, just whatever lesson is with those plants and making it relatable, then you can get them to try it. Like, I want to be better in endurance, so what can I make with Salal? This most recent class we did was infusing our traditional plants in vinegars, and then having the conversation of like knowing what we put in our bodies by making these things. We did cooking salts, and we had nettles and sage and lavender and wild rose and all of our plants, and then giving those out to community and having them also come in and make them also allows them to learn to identify the plants and create relationship with the plants and maybe make their own combinations.
We're blessed because we have a lot of the culture. We have a lot of the language. We have, you know, first person fluent speakers. You can go somewhere and get some help. You know what I mean, with those things. So if you're like, I'm trying to, you know, harvest a buffalo, or, you know, go and pick timsala. Timsala is like a turnip, you know, and bring those things from the earth. There's probably somebody that can help you do that, and that can teach you in the language. If we're going to teach these kids on how to do this, we need to be a pillar in that ourselves. It starts with the next generation, but how do we get the next generation up to speed? You know, we make that a priority in our own lives. When we understand how the food is a way of us and a way of our traditions, it's recognizing a lot more than just food. That is something that bonds everybody together, and that bonds, you know, all of our ceremonies together. You can't have these ceremonies without a couple of different things. You can't have it without the medicines, the water. You can't have it without the food. You can't have it without the people, you know, the songs. You know, there's many different prongs to that. It's incorporated in everything that we do as, you know, tribal people, as Indigenous people. You know, it's part of everything that we do.
get to know one plant, you know, and build a relationship with that plant. Learn its benefits. Learn the medicine it carries. You know, we have so many, you know, plants that truly are medicines. Tribal food sovereignty can be brought into, you know, our classrooms. It can be brought into our homes, our workplaces. Those are some of the ways that, you know, I get to, you know, bring that into space, and allows us to sustain our culture and our identity and our connection to the land.